Into the Emerald Dream is officially here, which means it's time for some day one standard Hearthstone decks. This time with a little bit of an additional deck. This time with a few extra lists. So instead of doing our 11, we're going to be doing 13 because I like the cards that much. We're going to be starting with DK here with Leech DK. The idea behind this is we are going to be using the Leech package, which summons 0/2 leeches that steal 1 HP from a random enemy and then gives it to your hero power. However, you can scale up this damage by using Hideous Husk, which will make each leech do 2 additional damage to whatever it's stealing, thus getting around Ice Block in Wild, but in Standard, it'll be able to allow you to get up to 100 plus HP pretty easily. We're going to be using some of the Dark Gift package in order to get additional copies of Hideous Husk or just cheaper versions. You're essentially going to always be looking for either double Battle Cry or mana discount on those. Now for the next list, which is going to be Among Us Death Rattle Demon Hunter. The idea behind this is we're going to be using Ravenous Fell Hunter as a way to get additional copies of Didra or Crimson Commanders as a way to scale up all of the Draenei's damage, aka the crewmates, in our hand and slam down as many copies as humanly possible. We also will have the backup strategy of the new Dread Seeds package as a way to have additional minions pretty easily. The missing 2 cards here are going to be Tusk Piercer, which will draw you into your Death Rattle minions. The next list is going to be Nature Tree Druid, centered around Hamal Rune Totem. This makes it where if you have only nature spells within your list, every 2 will imbue your hero power. The hero power for Druid here is going to be a scaling golem, similar to the Jade Golems of yesteryear, where you're essentially going to be able to refresh the imbued hero power for every 2 nature spells you cast. And since there are some synergies between nature spells and treants, I felt like this would be a perfect opportunity to explore a very underexplored package. Another deck for those aggro fans and nostalgic fans of Jade Druid. Now let's get onto the next list, which is going to be Big Beast Hunter, centered around Golgaren and King Plush. Golgaren makes it where any friendly beast will deal double damage, essentially making it where if you use the imbued hero power for Hunter, which reduces the cost of a random beast in your hand and also increases the attack, you essentially can bounce everything back using King Plush, slam down Golgaren on the same exact turn, and do a bajillion damage to your opponent's face. We do also have the opportunity of using the Discover package as a way to get additional copies of both of these cards, or even just using more alone as a way to get another Golgaren, which will scale exponentially because of how he is actually worded. Now for the next list, which is going to be Avianna OTK Priest, centered around Avianna, the new card that has the Battle Cry. The next 3 spells you play cast twice. This in combination with Moonwell, which does 4 damage, or Void Shard, or even Acupuncture should allow you to easily do 8 damage a piece normally. However, with any type of spell damage, such as Oracle, you'll be able to get up to 10 damage per cast. And you might be wondering, how is this going to OTK if our opponent has armor or is playing Leech DK? Well, we do have a way to reset the combo through Raza, and we also can make all of our cards cost 1 for the rest of the game through Avianna, making use of both legendaries. And if you're a big fan of these big wacky combos, this one will be a great one for y'all to try out. It should be pretty cool. Now for the next list, which is going to be Imbue Mage, centered around Ancessa. And we're also going to be running Champions of Azeroth in order to, in theory, get Bran, in order to get double Battle Cry off of this. And the other big wacky element of this is going to be Spark of Life, which will allow you to either discover a mage spell or a druid spell. The hope here is you'll be discovering Final Frontier, going into Sire, and then using your imbued hero powers to get you a bunch of imps and do a bunch of damage to your opponent's face. This is kind of a control deck, but it does have a lot of aggro tools since you're going to be swarming the board with a bunch of 1/1s every time you use your hero power and do damage that way. Now for Paladin, we have Terran Aura Paladin, centered around Ursol. who has the battle cry, cast the highest cost spell from your hand as an aura that lasts 3 turns. Now, it is worth mentioning we can use the Adora as a way to get Flames of Ragnaros or any of the other really good treasures. However, the main way we're hoping to win is by slamming down Crafter's Aura or Crusader's Aura through Ursol, thus giving us 3 copies instead of 1, and then using Cardboard Golem as a way to extend the auras for a few extra turns in case we don't OTK. And then we also have the Starship package as a way to have big minions that can easily take full advantage of what we're trying to do. Now, for the first rogue deck, which is going to be hand control / bounce rogue, centered around Ren Feral as one of our win conditions. This card traps one of our opponent's cards in their hand, and every time we bounce it back and play her again, it'll trap more and more cards, making it where your opponent can use less and less cards each time you do slam this down. We do have backup plans of just swarming the board with Harbinger of the Blighted as a way to get a bunch of 2-cost minions or get additional copies of our bounces through Tideful Pupil. It is worth mentioning the missing card here is Waggle Pick, which is another bounce back, and luckily enough for us, Sonya in combination with Ren Feral and a Shadow Step will allow us to get additional Ren Ferals, and hopefully that will retain the information of how many times it's been bounced this game. Now for the bonus rogue list, which is going to be Envoy of the Glaive Rogue, aka Thief Rogue, centered around the new minion Envoy of the Glaive, which has the battle cry transform all your neutral cards in your deck into random Druid ones, aka giving us access to some of the best cards in Hearthstone, since Druid tends to be pretty strong. That can easily be replayed with Tess, and we can easily even replay her through the bounce backs within the list, while also having Ashmane as a big finisher to get additional copies of our opponent's cards that they have left within their list. Now for the next list, which is going to be Imbued Nebula Shaman, and if you don't know what Nebula does, it essentially gives you 2 8-cost minions that have Taunt and Elusive, and you might be wondering, why are we doing this? Well, the new legendary Murderthria resurrects all different friendly minions that cost 8 or more, essentially allowing you to revive some of your Alkairs and the other cards that you are going to be randomly generating through the imbued hero powers that Shaman has access to, which is a scaling hero power that evolves a individual minion, making it where it scales so high that you should be able to easily get some 8-cost minions. The missing cards within this list are going to be Blazing Invocation, but you could also use Flockling Podling as a way to get additional minions, which is going to be Tortolla Warrior, centered around Tortolla, the new legendary for Warrior, that has Taunt Elusive, 1 attack, 30 HP. You might be wondering, how are we going to make use of this card? Well, we do have access to Crazed Alchemist that will allow us to swap the attack and HP of any given minion that we want. And we're going to be swapping Tortolla's attack and HP if he survives long enough. And if he doesn't, then we're going to be using Hydration Station to revive him and do the combo anyways. We're also going to be cheating him out sooner using Chemical Spill and doing our stereotypical Terran Warrior things with the rest of the list. Now for the first Warlock list, which is going to be Agamaggan OTK Warlock, centered around our new Wild God here that has the battle cry. The next card you play costs your opponent's health instead of mana, up to 10. It is worth mentioning this card can hit lethal. It is also worth mentioning it does hit through armor, thus making it where 3 copies baseline, unless you're facing against DK, should be able to OTK any opponent. And then you might be wondering, how are we getting 3 copies? Well, we do have Bob the Bartender as a way to get additional copies of her, along with Dorian and Marlone as the direct ways, since this does have a 50% chance of giving the card we want. Using a small Zerg package in order to control the board state until we can get into our big combo. Now for the last list, which is going to be Dark Gift Warlock. This deck is going to essentially be centered around Wallow the Wretched, which gets a copy of every Dark Gift given to your minions throughout the game. So we're essentially going to be running all the Dark Gift cards that are within this set as a way to try to buff up her as quickly as possible and hopefully get a combination of charge and a bunch of additional stats to OTK our opponent. We will also be running Kill Jaden as a backup way to get even more Dark Gifts since Xavius is in that pool along with the Treacherous Tormentors. Now, those were all the decks I prepared for day one. Let me know which one down below you're most excited to try out. There's quite a few lists here that I really do want to try out. A wide variety of different play styles. And like always, if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, bye-bye.